Today we will be discussing nationalism and imperialism. Frankly, two of my favorite things in AP European history. So, let's get started. My name is Shinlan Emily Hugh, and I'm from Red 1. So the first concept that we'll be talking about is nationalism. Nationalism is the idea that a group of people, especially in a country, have a common identity or a cultural background like language, religion, or a common land. And you can tell this right from the word itself. See, it says nationalism, right? And of course, in terms of nationalism, this is not always true, and some historians have argued that it's really been created artificially. For example, there have been lots of different variations on regional dialects, and in many cases, different groups have tried to share the same common land. So what can nationalism do? Well, there are several impacts. First is unification. This is when two different groups of people that share the same culture decide to form one single nation that covers both of them. The opposite of that would be separation. So that's when one single country has two or more different ethnicities or nations within it, and they want to split apart. And the third one is state building, which is basically when the sense of common national unity makes a state stronger. Let's talk about some examples of where nationalism had a strong effect on unifying different countries. The best one is probably Germany, where the well-known Otto von Bismarck brought together 39 different states into a single German country. First, let's have some background. As stated earlier, in 1815, Germany was a mess of individual states loosely grouped into the German Confederation. The strongest among these states are, as you probably remember, Austria and Prussia. Prussia in particular had an army well known for its strength. Remember Frederick William and his obsession with tall boys? This army, as well as its ethnic homogeneity, helped make Prussia the catalyst of German unification. Change really happened when Wilhelm I succeeded to the Prussian throne in 1861. Wilhelm was a conservative, so he made the liberal parliament angry when he tried to use money to strengthen the army. As a conservative, however, Wilhelm was supported by a group of people called the Junkers, people who were generally wealthy and land-owning. A year after his coronation, Wilhelm chose one such junker, Otto von Bismarck, to become his prime minister. Bismarck was a proponent of a policy called realpolitik, which obviously, as if you couldn't tell from the word itself, meant the politics of reality. In practice, realpolitik meant that Bismarck ruled with harsh power struggles and didn't worry about utopian ideas. Now, something really important that this Otto von Bismarck did was the Franco-Prussian War. Because even though Otto von Bismarck had successfully unified North Germany, he hadn't really unified Southern Germany. And as a result, he wanted to incite nationalism. So from 1870 to 1871, he fought the Franco-Prussian War. As you can tell from the name, it was a war between France and Prussia. So the war started basically when Otto von Bismarck created this false telegram, making it seem like France had insulted the Prussian king. As a result, France dove headfirst into war, but wasn't prepared. In fact, Prussia had been secretly preparing for war for 3 years beforehand. As a result, nationalism spread throughout southern Germany, and France lost the war. Germany became unified into a new kingdom called the Second Reich. In Italy, there were many different city-states, just like in Germany, and among these, the largest and most powerful was Piedmont and Sardinia. Piedmont and Sardinia had a liberal constitution formed in 1848, and its prime minister was Count Camillo di Cavour. Now, in an effort to unify northern Italy, Count Camillo di Cavour decided to ally with Napoleon III of France and fight a war against the Austrians. They won the war, despite the fact that it was very bloody, and ended up unifying northern Italy. In southern Italy, there's a revolutionary called Giuseppe Garibaldi. Basically, just know that he conquered most of southern Italy and unifies the land that he conquers with Piedmont and Sardinia. As a result, pretty soon, there's a single, unified Italy. This video isn't just about nationalism. It's also about another ism. It's about a we are better than you ism. It's about oppression. It's about exploitation. It's about imperialism. So what kinds of factors led to this we are better than you mindset? this imperialism? Well, let's take a look. Right now, we're just going to focus on imperialism in Africa, although, to be sure, European imperialism affected everywhere. Now, the main point that led to imperialism was technology. Europeans had superior technology, including better weapons like guns and transportation like the steam engine. Additionally, especially in Africa, Europeans developed drugs to combat the diseases that originally deterred them from actually going in and conquering the land. For example, quinine made Europeans resistant to malaria. Additionally, because the Africans were so ethnically diverse, Europeans could play one group against another, and this meant the Africans were unable to unite and fight against the Europeans as one. Basically, these three factors led to the European control of Africa, which led to what is commonly known as the scramble for Africa. Well, this is just a super racist way in which Europeans basically took Africa for themselves without any regard to the different linguistic and cultural groups in Africa, without any consultation of the African leaders, without any concern at all for the fate of the people that they just sealed, only because they discovered diamonds, they discovered resources there, they thought they could exploit it and take it for themselves because they were better than the Africans for whatever reason. And at the Berlin Conference from 1884 to 1885, they just split up Africa and said, if you can take care of it, then it's yours. The price of imperialism was death. This definitely happened in South Africa, where clashes over the resources with local people like the Zulus and Bears led to the Boer War. Now, imperialism can take many forms. So, the first type of imperialism is to have a colony, which is basically when a piece of land or a country is controlled inside and out by another country. And of course, this is awful. And the second one is a protectorate, which is basically when the land has a sovereign government. However, it is still largely controlled from the outside by the other power that obviously does the colonizing, etc. The third one is a sphere of influence, which is basically when the area inside this country is claimed to have entire economic dependence on another country. So basically, another country monopolizes trade with this one area. And finally, economic imperialism is when you have one developing country dependent on a developed country. As a result, the developing countries stay developing. So here are some examples of imperialism. The first one is the United States and Southeast Asia, also inclusive of Puerto Rico and Guam. All three of these have one thing in common, which is that they were gained by the United States from Spain after the United States won the Spanish-American War of 1898. As a result, the United States subsequently decided to impose its culture upon the people of Southeast Asia and Puerto Rico and Guam. And the British, of course, imperialized and colonized India. In India, well, let's just use the words of Michael Prenti when he wrote the book Against Empire. He said, in 1810, India was exporting more textiles to England than England was exporting to India. By 1830, the flow was reversed. By 1850, India's debt had grown to 53 million pounds. In short, you just learned about nationalism and imperialism. Nationalism is the idea that people have a common territory and culture. Imperialism is that one territory and culture is better than another and therefore can exploit the territories of another culture of people. Well, anyway, I hope that you learned lots from this lesson and have a great day.